Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Ben from Universal Audio, and welcome back to a very special Luna Office Hours. It's Friday afternoon, and I know traditionally we've taken our Friday afternoons, done a little bit of a happy hour thing, but we kind of flipped the script today. So this morning session, we did a bunch of Q&A, and we were showing off how to use a bunch of drum sequencing plugins and other platforms inside of Luna. So hopefully we answered a ton of outstanding questions with that. So that opens up space for this afternoon to spend some time with the one and only Corey Congilio.
What's up, my friend?
How you doing, man?
Great to be with you, man. This is awesome.
I know, it's great to be with you as well,
I'm
man.
so excited. It's really cool because it's just like me and you are hanging out right now. I can't see the feed.
Mm-hmm.
When I do my YouTube live streams, I'm like, I see all these questions popping up, and I'm like, I'm just gonna hang and make some music, you know?
Exactly. Yeah,
and not be scared of any potential trolls.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we've got I think Matt and Tom are hanging out on the chat. So if you guys do have technical questions, they can answer those. Or if you have questions for me and Corey, feel free to hit them in the chat, and those will get bubbled up, surfaced up over to me, and I can ask on your all's behalf. But more importantly, we're here to learn from you, Corey. You're man. So for people who aren't familiar, if you somehow have missed our NAMM show for the last couple of years, ever since basically we've been working with you since the Aux came out, right?
That's right.
So if you guys aren't familiar, Corey, incredible session guitar player, teacher, kind of all jack of all trades in a sense these days, aren't you?
Yeah, I've always been that, and now it's actually more important than ever.
Yeah,
so it's fun. It keeps you on your toes.
Right. And so yeah, you've kind of adapted a little bit. You mentioned live streaming yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell people a little bit about some of the stuff you're doing at the moment.
Well, it was funny towards the end of 2019, just at the NAMM show, I really wanted to kind of be home a little bit more and kind of build up my studio stuff and my online teaching presence, as well as like my YouTube presence and all that stuff. And it's been growing. It's been really great. So if you're a subscriber, thanks, appreciate it. And just wanted to be at home, getting connected to all my gear, working with the companies I work with, so that at a moment's notice I can create some great content, with nice cameras and good audio and everything that goes with it. And there's a lot that goes with it, as we've talked about off camera.
Right. As you've quickly discovered, when you go from being a musician to like being a content
videographer,
exactly. You start geeking out and learning, like, man, well, it's cool because there are a lot of parallels, right? There's a lot of like, once you have a kind of refined taste for how things sound, then you kind of can apply that same lens to how things look, and also how you execute things like live streams, which are you can do it. There's an easy way to do them, but then there's also a more complicated way to kind of elevate the production value.
I'm somewhere in the middle. And
Me too.
I'll get there. Hey, but I'm a one-man show for right now, so it's like walking and chewing gum at the same time, and tapping your belly and
trying to remember all the things to do, and keeping on top of chat. It's a lot. It's a lot of hats to wear at once, but you're doing it super well.
Thanks,
so kind of before, so the goal of this session, what I think is going to be really cool, is kind of showing people your process when you have clients or artists that you're working with sending you tracks and saying, hey, Corey, give me the Corey Congilio, give me the guitar. So that's gonna be where we're gonna get to. But I think before we dive into there, you want to just give people a quick little overview of kind of like what your studio setup is like and kind of what this configuration is.
So what I'm doing is, I have an Apollo 8P and a twin, and they're connected. I'm usually just using the twin for monitor control mostly, but sometimes I'll do something fun with my live streams, and I'll take the alt source out and go to something else that I can filter down to a 2-channel mix. So the Apollo is super flexible for that. I can have literally like 2 mixes going, which, just jump on YouTube. You'll see this friendly guy's face over there teaching you how to use plugins, and you'll see Gannon and all the other great folks you guys work with. So I'm always learning something new about how I can manipulate gear and audio for streams and for teaching and all that sort of stuff. Aside from that, I just wrangled myself a new computer, so thankfully this is working all. And I have a handful of like cool amps back there. I have an old Marshall, I have an old this old Princeton, and a few 2-rock amps. Those guys are my buddies, so I basically, like, threaten their families if they don't send me one to check out for a couple months, and then I send it back to them. So today I'm using the one that's like turquoise. It's a TS1,
Okay.
and then I have the Marshall we're gonna play for one track, and some fake candles and pedals.
Hell
And
yeah.
that enhances the ambiance. I have let's see, what did we say that Zoom Shift Apple N was it, or Shift
Shift. Yeah. Command Shift N.
Command Shift N, and that's my little pedal board I'll use today. It's got
Nice.
sort of the usual suspects like some drives, and the Boss modulation, some Ventris Nemesis delay and reverb action from Source Audio.
Nice.
So yeah, and that's pretty much it, and I got some guitars here. We'll talk about those.
Awesome.
64 SG
Mm-hmm.
Junior, David Grissom PRS, John Mayer Silver Sky PRS, a cool Ronin that's kind of like a Junior with a gold foil, and then the piece de resistance, the Ganjo is going to make an appearance.
Yes.
Because we're going to be doing a modern country track here, and we're not doing that. We're doing something else, and I'll talk about that kind of stuff. I don't think I'm leaving anything out other than the fact that I'm using a bunch of stuff in the box. Obviously, it wouldn't be a UA sort of live stream here without some auxes. So I have one you can see behind me on the TS1, and I have another one on the floor that I ran a long speaker cable over, and I connected that in. So I have they're going stereo, and I do stereo kind of like not so it's like a widespread, but more of a sort of mono sort of signal. Like, just like if you would have a 57 in a Royer and a console and you bus it or you do whatever.
Yeah.
I try to get just a big mono picture with a stereo input, if that makes sense.
So are you taking the two microphones and panning them hard left and right so you have that blend later, or are you just kind of
Not
committing
always.
to them down the
Sometimes
middle?
I do. It depends on the client. Like if it's something that's for myself, I'll just kind of get a big fat tone and run it straight up the middle, and then pan them accordingly, or I'll pan them hard, and then somebody can do a split to mono thing later, and then they could ride each one if they wanted to. But generally, I like to think I provide, pretty half decent guitar sounds. So
Nice.
they have them just ready to go printed.
Hell yeah. Oh, somebody on the chat was asking one thing we didn't cover in the setup. What camera are you using? Because you look so good.
Oh, it looks good. Good.
Yeah.
I'm always wondering. So this is a Sony A6000 going into just a USB capture card.
Nice.
And the reason I like this one is because it's not DSLR, it's mirrorless. So I've ran this thing for hours and it hasn't gotten warm.
Nice.
So,
that's
but I have
helpful.
a Logitech C910 here that I use a lot also. But
awesome.
These cameras with lenses and stuff, it get finicky with lights. So the cool thing is that's got a $400, which if you know anything about lenses, isn't a lot of money.
Yeah.
For I can't remember the company, but it's a great lens for that camera because it has a nice little depth of field.
Is it the Sigma lens?
Sigma. It is.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's got the whole cool f-stop thing going.
Yeah, you get the sexy blur that you don't get with the little webcams.
And I probably could have made it even sexier. But then
I'm glad exactly. If you said
didn't work out.
Exactly too high a second, and then it's hard to hear the music when the picture is too sexy.
You don't want to. I mean, we're here about audio.
Exactly. Come on, guys. Come on. Awesome. Well, yeah, man. So cool. So that's your whole setup. I guess next step. Let's hear the track. Let's kind of pull up your screen and let's let the people hear what we're going to be working on.
So I'll share it on my end, or do you do it here?
You share on your end, yeah.
Okay. And here we go. Let's do that. Sweet.
Perfect.
All right. So this track, it's a great story. The artist's name is Mitch Zorn, Zorn. He's a lovely Canadian boy. I've known Mitch and been working with him for many years. And I produced a couple tracks for him a few years ago. And then this year, I introduced him to a really great songwriter friend of mine from Ohio. His name is Joe Zellick, and they have another songwriting partner named Kate Copeland that they go on little writing retreats and they write. And Joe has been producing Mitch, and I've just been kind of cutting tracks because thankfully I've been busy with building up some other areas of my business. So I'm not full on producing his project, but the future is always different. So who knows? But we work together all the time. We're all buddies.
Nice.
And anytime I can get any of my friends together, it's always a cool thing.
Yeah,
You know?
it keeps it in the family, and it helps everybody work and collaborate. Like, because, dude, isn't that the funnest part about doing music is like getting to do it with your friends?
It is, especially in this medium where it's like, you know, we're sending stuff across the wire and so on and so forth.
Yep.
So, I got all the tracks selected. Stand by. You know, so I'm just gonna solo up. Oh, I don't know why it's doing that.
Because you're clicking so fast. So you've got selection grouping turned on. This is something that will trip up if you're kind of new to Luna. This is the biggest thing that I mean, I even run into it myself, where sometimes I'm like, oh shit, I didn't mean to do that to everything.
Right.
So the quickest way is just hit Command G, and that takes you out of the selection grouping mode. So now you can select, and it won't necessarily act on that whole thing. And you can always you can tell which mode you're in. You saw there was like a faint blue outline around those tracks before.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So that's the signal of whether or not you're going to be acting to all those tracks, or if you're just going to be acting to the one.
Well, and I had gone into that mode by accident just because I wanted to set you up like a little board mix. And clearly I didn't get out of it. So this is the track without any of the parts I added. So it's got sort of this. It's like this sort of like Mitch loves country and hip hop and Americana. And he loves like Richard Thompson, but he loves J. Cole and all these. Like he's a mixture kind of a dude, and he's getting to spread his wings as a writer, which is really cool. So the track you can see here, I don't really add a whole lot until chorus 1, and I wanted that to be. That was on purpose because the melody you'll hear is very, very busy, and I wanted to get out of the way. And the track was fairly done already. So here's the top.
Party lights hung down from your lemon tree in the backyard of that yellow house in Los Angeles. When living in the moment came so effortlessly, guess we never really said goodbye. To the weekends and the road trips and the beach fires, to the hockey games and the slow rides and the all-nighters. With the outcasts, we were wasted in the moonlight, without a hint of leaving in our eyes. There's a map of our story traced on the floor of my car. The rolling papers, the drink tickets from a dive bar. And I'm connecting the dots just like a constellation that received from the movies that time that you bought ice skates. I remember the first night that you and I just shared a secret that I hoped that I could trust that you were gonna keep. Stayed awake that night while you were busy sleeping, lost in the pages of the book that you've been reading. Every item paints a portrait of a memory of you, down to the mud tracks, the tread marks of the sole of your shoe. I won't ever understand how a beating heart could feel so close to another and then pull apart. Tried to say it so many times, but fell short. Between the truth and the lies, we had a false start, false start. Doesn't seem fair how everything just...
Yeah, so that's kind of where we're building from.
Nice. And so that's the 2-track that they sent you.
That's
basically.
it. Yeah. Yep. So.
And just for people that are watching real quick, they may have seen your other meters kind of moving. That's because you've got pre-fader metering turned on, which is totally fine. It's actually a good mode to be in for tracking, but it can sometimes get a little confusing that like you're seeing meters going, but actually all we were hearing is that top track. But yeah, so this is exactly. So it's cool to hear. So they already did, they got percussion, they've got acoustic guitars, all the keyboards. So basically everything but electric guitars are in there.
Right. So one of the things that I try to do is, look, I know this genre is going to be, they're going to want a big wall of electrics left and right, you know, and what I like to do is sort of take the chorus first approach, and I'll always track those first. Unless I stumble upon a sound for an intro or a signature hook or something that's really calling me, then I'll lay it down. But I always I want the chorus to be the payoff when I get there. So I build it first out, so what I'll do is I'll just kind of solo my chorus tracks and just hear how 2 big wallpaper guitars panned left and right affect that. And
I love that. Wallpaper guitars.
Wallpaper guitars. Yeah. And I don't know where they're at level-wise, so I'll mix as we go.
I don't think it's a portrait of a memory of you, down to the mud tracks, the tread marks of the sole of your shoe. I won't ever understand how a beating heart could feel so close to another and then pull apart. apart. Tried to say it so many times, fell short. Between the truth and the lies, we had a false start. False start, false start, start, false start, false start. Doesn't seem.
Yeah, so that's kind of what's going to add the meat to it. And it's a kind of thing where if I go back to it, I would probably pull those babies even lower.
It's kind of.
I don't think it's a portrait of a memory of you. Down to the mud tracks, the tread marks, the sole of your shoes. I won't ever understand how a beating heart could feel so close to another and then pull apart. Tried to say it so many times, fell short. Between the truth and the lies, we had a false start.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about how we got there.
Yeah, I was like, to reveal the secrets, sir. How did we get
So,
here?
You know, it's to the average guitar player who lives in my town in Nashville. They do this every day, but it's not always that clear. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the aux app.
Okay.
And you can see here that it says Marshall false start. We're going to use the Marshall here.
So that's your pedals out to the Marshall head, head into the aux.
This is just going to the Marshall.
Oh, nice.
So what's cool is let's talk a little bit about how I'm integrating an old Marshall into aux, and one of the things that makes it beautiful. First of all, you're going to hear that there's reverb. You know, if you were to plug, and you're probably hearing my window open, cars go by. That is not a sample. That's a real car going by. But it gets hot in this little room with all the gear. So, you know, if you were to plug a reverb pedal in the front of that old Marshall, it would go ballistic, you know, and it would not translate well. So I'll definitely throw a little plate there on it, and yeah, I'm gonna print it. And we print a lot of
that adds like a little bit of extra, like a little bit of tail to it, but it's more almost more about the presence, right? Like that's
and sort of a faux fullness, you know. Then what I'll do is these Marshalls can be pretty chimey on the top end. I think with the mics, I got it happening the way I liked it. I wondered why. Sometimes with these mice, you hit something and like all of a sudden
rotates it out. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, and for all of us on the stream, what we're getting to hear here is we're hearing it one step later. So you guys are seeing it pan centered in the aux. But as we have it, the way this Corey's got it running into the session and through, we're kind of using a hybrid approach here that we'll talk about in a few minutes. But you'll notice even wherever his pants pots are, we're hearing it on the left side, which is ultimately where this one's going to land.
Right. So then what I do is I'm not afraid of compression. I used to be.
You got over your fear, now you compress. Nice.
Yeah. So now if I'm those chords or that chorus goes. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, look at my release time.
It's because right with the music.
Exactly, and I want that thing to hang over the bar line. You're going to notice in verse 2, when I do it here.
First chill of a cold breeze on an August day, watching the clouds change from white to dusty pink to gray. Where that old cabin smelled in a month of May. There's a painting of me up in a box somewhere. Made my eyes shine greener, brightened up my hair. There's a glimmer of someone that I recognize, buried in the brushstrokes, the shadows, the outline. Funny to think that you once saw me that way. What would I look like if you painted me that way? Feeling of forever where it all.
Fun shit, right?
Well, and that's I mean, this is the big point about these guitars, right? Is I mean, you're an incredible guitar player. You've got insane chops. But what matters for the song right here is doing the right thing, which is giving that support, giving them that notes, giving that fill, giving that wallpaper of guitars. And wallpaper guitars do not need a lot of notes.
No, it needs, and notice too, I mean, that's probably even a little too much gain because, and there's another reason why I like to use on those kinds of things, low gain and these old SGs that have P90s.
Yeah.
they're not as compressed feeling as a humbucker.
Mhm.
Although I'm going to go to a humbucker next, but that guitar is my go-to rock guitar.
Yeah.
So then, because it's just no frills, it's just on, just
Exactly.
straightforward. So what I like to do then is I'll do the same thing. I'll double that part
Mhm.
and pan it, but it'll be a completely
Whole new chain.
whole new chain, different guitar,
Mhm.
different sound. Now this is going to be cool because
And you'll do it, and so you'll do the exact same part, but just
yeah,
everything about it. So the
Yep.
music, the notes, everything about it is exactly the same, but
Yep.
the entire chain, the guitar, the head, the cab, the effect, everything is a different tone. It really helps separate the two.
Yeah, so if you check this out now I'm doing, this is the PRS. This is a David Grissom model called the DGT, and it's much more mid-range forward guitar. The two rock that I'm plugging into has that quality too.
Mhm.
So it's definitely got a snarl, like.
Yeah.
So the P90 will be a little wiry sounding, a little more airy, maybe jangly, and then this one will kind of toughen it up a little bit. And then if I do my fancy camera mode here,
Just make sure you have
I gotta have zoom. I gotta be
exactly,
in
but
zoom.
zoom and focus. There you go.
There we go. I don't want to select a new track. So there's my pedal board. So the only thing I remember using on this track was the Shanks Vemoram pedal right here. So UA aux panel alumni John Shanks created that pedal.
It's a drive. Yeah.
So it's a drive. I'm gonna turn this up here. And the first time I plugged that pedal in, I was like, oh man, it sounds like a guy who produces singer-songwriters created this pedal.
Yep.
And that's what it sounded like. So if you were to hear those two together, you'll get a really solid sense of kind of what my approach was. So we'll highlight the chorus here.
Mud tracks, the tread marks of the sole of your shoe. I won't ever understand how a beating heart could be so close to another and then pull apart. Tried to say it so many
And then here's the two rock. Now,
Those
one
two,
of the
those two
things
fit together like a glove, man. You got
you got to have that glue, you know.
it really. You got almost like it feels like the Marshall's got the top and bottom with a little bit of a hole in the middle, but then the two rock is coming in on the other side, feeling a little bit more of the middle with a little bit less pronounced high and low end.
Yeah, I was lucky to work with some people who. This is my second tour of duty in Nashville. I lived here once before, and you'd think you wouldn't be able to learn from someone that was so as astute as the pros here, or LA, or whatever. But I was lucky enough to maintain a friendship and mentorship with a producer friend of mine in Pittsburgh named Sean McDonald, and he used to cut tracks with me with a Marshall, an old 2203, and we would be blistering loud, and it would be like ice picky, you know. And then as soon as we pulled the faders back, it was like in the track. So I try to make sure that I have like one guitar that's kind of not brittle, but has enough high end to where it's like, okay, is that too much? And I pull it back, and then it sits without any EQ. So speaking of EQ, I'm just gonna throw, these guys should be on.
Yeah, we've been listening
good.
through those.
We've been hearing them. So yeah, so if they were off, listen to them. Now, here's a question for you, Ben. Are there marker locators?
Not in V1 yet.
Not okay. So I'm dying for those.
But you can click on the name of a marker and it'll drop the playhead right on it.
Right. So let's go to the pre-chorus and listen in. And we'll go to.
You're also gonna love this. I'm gonna show you.
Okay. So here's the track too.
You're so close to another and then pull apart. Tried to say it so many
can already hear they're too woofy. So if I turn those on,
I don't think it's a portrait of a memory of you. Down to the mud tracks, the tread marks, and the sole of your shoe. I won't ever understand how a beating heart could get so close to another and then pull apart. Tried to say it so many times, but fell short. Between the truth and the lies, we had a false start.
yeah. So that's how I get the foundation of the house built.
Nice. Well,
That kind of thing.
so the shortcut that you're gonna love me for later.
Oh, can't wait.
Shift W. So Shift W will automatic any plug-in windows, any windows that are up in your face and getting in your way. Hit Shift W, hides them immediately. It lets you do what you want to do.
Oh,
So like
sweet.
it's like what you were just doing there. So you can leave the EQs kind of up and ready to rock.
Yep.
And then Shift W. Boom.
Oh,
Hide
did they
them,
come back?
and they
Look
come
at
right
that.
back.
Oh man, that's what office hours are for, baby.
Exactly. Everyone's learning here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So this is really cool. And that's what's cool is that this is 2 different single paths, being able to integrate the aux and Luna and UAD processing kind of all happening at once.
Absolutely. So check out, I have another track, which is going to be really cool. And we'll use like this John Mayer PRS thing here.
Nice.
And what I did was, actually, that's the wrong cable. I got cables
You have
everywhere.
so many. Yeah, when you're managing this many chains, I can imagine it's hard to get your wires crossed.
So what I'm going to do now is, if you just have a listen to this chain, this is, now is there a reason? I'm in the wrong input. There we go.
You might just need to, where it says mic, you might need to click on that so it says high Z.
Okay.
One more click. It's online. It's looking for number 2. Are you in which high Z?
Oh, there we go. That's the problem.
There it is.
Yeah, let me just pull that up in the.
Oh, it's because you have solos. So go ahead and cancel out your
okay.
solos. That's why we're not hearing it.
Aha.
Nope, that's not why we're not hearing
Still
it.
not. Is it? Huh. Well, it was very impressive. Trust me. That might not. I might even be the wrong cable. Aha.
There it is.
Just push it. Sometimes you just gotta push it real good.
Push it real good. There we go. Now, you want to turn that fader up a little bit in Luna?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
So in the beginning of the track, it was so sparse. I didn't want to add too much to it. So what I did was you take this. I think the PT100 model that those guys created of Pete's amp is the best clean sounding plug-in style amp of its kind.
Yeah.
So black facey Fender.
Ooh, that sounds
Really,
good.
really nice. Yeah, and then like to me, you start kind of doing, your out of phase positions on the Strat. It's gonna add for some nice, nice little parts. So check this out.
And where's
So
that
that's
little bit of reverb coming from?
Oh, I forgot about that. Almost like it's almost like you know how to do your job, Ben. Just calling me out. Where is he? Where is he?
So record enable, and so this is kind of the cool thing that we're getting used to here by working inside Luna. Is that you can when you record enable, it automatically loads the processing for that track in the moment, and then it actually allows you to create multiple different chains. So you can have this one here, and then without having to switch inputs or anything like that, you could actually set up different input chains and then easily get back to this one down the road as well.
I was surprised at how fast I took to that. Like once you kind of say, okay, console is now in Luna, you can start to create really, really fast.
Yeah.
Especially with the record effect chain. I love that. It just makes, to me, it even makes more sense than actual console in a lot of ways. For me, I really like it. It took me a minute to figure out, I have to have, record enabled, to get access to that. Like I still fumble on it.
Yeah, exactly. Because you get so used to like consoles in the background. I'm always listening through console and then going to like Pro Tools or Ableton and then not monitoring inside there. So the fact that it's now mashed into one, it's gonna take a little retraining to really get used to it.
No, absolutely, and it's not. I mean, this is the first track I'm really playing with. I did a my YouTube lessons. I started to use Luna exclusively just because it was so fast. Everything was just so quick.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, RE201.
So,
Verb
and you're really just using that for the verb. So even though it's
Exactly.
a lot of people know the 201 or the Galaxy Tape Echo. You know, you
Mhm.
think, oh, I'm going to pull that open for Echo. Dude, don't sleep on that spring reverb in there because
No,
it is
absolutely
perfect
not.
for guitars.
Yeah. So if we go back to the top of the track, you'll hear that guy come in. So let me solo him and solo this because I don't want to give away any other goodies. So here he is. I'll back it down.
With the party lights hung down from your lemon tree, in the backyard of that yellow house in Los Angeles, when living in the moment came so effortlessly, guess we never really said goodbye to the weekends and the road trips and the beach fires.
That's why I
And the hockey games and the slow rides and the all-nighters, with the outcasts we wasted in the moonlight, without a hint of leaving in our eyes.
So then what's cool is listen to that against our chorus guitars, and I created this little fun melody.
Mud tracks, the tread marks of the Solio shoes. I won't ever understand how we're beating heart. We feel so close to another and then pull apart. Tried to say it so many times, but fell short. Between the truth and the lies, we had a false start. False start, false start, start, false start, false start. Doesn't seem
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So it's kind of like it's almost like a little counter fill melody type thing.
Yeah, it's like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But what's the cool thing is once we get into verse 2, then I go full on Mayer.
false start, false start. Doesn't seem fair how everything just slips away. First chill of a cold breeze on an August day, watching the clouds change from white to dusty pink to gray. Way that old cabin smelled in a month of May. There's a painting of me up in a box somewhere, made my eyes shine green or brightened up my hair. There's a glimmer of someone that I recognize, buried in the brushstrokes, the shadows, the outline. Funny to think that you once saw me that way. What would I look like if you painted me that way? The feeling of forever where it all begins, got me caught up in the what ifs in the mind.
That's super
Just
cool.
wanted to elevate the section,
Well, it's cool too. I mean, and I hope people are picking up on this too at home. It's like there's dynamics in what you're playing. So like you're doing a lot of those controls happening in the fingers to create the difference between just like a real kind of like a whisper for the verse into like something a little bit more pronounced for the chorus, and then you get back to that third verse, and now you're kind of like softly just driving with some quarter notes. This is. You're really, this is such a good example of like it's a combination of the plugins and the sound design that you do, but also so much of it is like the part and the touch.
Yeah, it's about finding just as sonically there needs to be holes in it. There needs to be holes in it rhythmically and compositionally as well. So that's the thing that always kind of motivates me. So let's go back to the beginning. I think that's pretty much what this guitar does throughout that song. We'll pop this out so it doesn't pop your ears. And what I did was I would went back to this guitar, and if I'm in the flow of a tracking session, I let the instruments that inspired me take me, and then I just started go from there. I don't use something just so I can say I used it. I just kind of go with what I got. So if we listen to both, now all those parts will be in a little atmospheric guitar.
With the party lights.
So let's hear him one more time. Some pretty verb and delay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you
Backyard, that yellow.
What'd you use for effects on that one?
So that one I went back to the pedal board, and I didn't. The techies out there will think less of me because I didn't like beat map and totally like get the exact BPM for it. But sometimes if you're just going and you tap,
shocker, it doesn't matter.
It works. It
Exactly.
freaking works. So since I'm navigating like 3 signal chains here, let me make sure I got the right thing going. Okay. So I know I used my Ventris reverb, and I know I used my Nemesis delay here. And we'll do, shift that blend. Let's go to Zoom. Look at all this wonderful technology. There we go. So if we do that, I love 500 millisecond delays because it's always good for. It just always works regardless sometimes of the tempo. So I always have a patch set up for that. Instead, I'll eat my words, and I actually went and tapped that one. So I think I went like, just tapped it like that. I don't even know what the subdivision in the pedal is. I just kind of was letting it rock. Sorry, guys. Oh, let me get rid of these things. I swear I know what I'm doing. Actually, no, I don't. Just a guitar player. Yeah, so. And I'll put a little overdrive on sometimes to kind of. Let's find that fader. Is that quiet on your end?
It's a little quiet on my end.
Yeah, I don't know why.
It's coming through. It's you're on the slide solo area.
Yeah.
Let's give it a little more. Maybe pop the Helios open and give it a touch more.
Yeah. Let's do that.
There we go. There's always gain available.
There is. Yeah, so I think I just did. Let me go back to my. Sorry, guys, on my camera.
All good.
How many things can I juggle at one time? There we go.
The juggle. There it goes.
Yeah. So I just did that. It's like there's one of the premier session guys in town, Derek Wells. He made a video once about stop doing these chords.
The 10th.
And it just works because the interval's so wide and it's nice for that kind of stuff.
I love me some 2-note chords.
But he was right. Refrain if you can.
Or play them on bass.
A lot of that stuff, Yeah. It's not. Yeah, right. So I think of our buddy Jakir and James Bay and people like that, and who really create those lovely sounds. But that's kind of what's going on here. If we listen to, let's pull all those guys back together with the track.
There's a map of our story traced on the floor of my car. Rolling papers to drink tickets for a dive bar. I'm connecting the dots just like a constellation. They received the movies that time that you bought ice skates. I remember the first night that you and I just shared a secret. And I hope that I could trust that you were gonna keep it. Stayed awake that night while you were busy sleeping. Lost in the pages of the book that you've been reading. Every item paints a portrait of a memory of you. Down to the mud tracks, the tread marks, the sole of your shoe. I won't ever understand how a beating heart could feel so close to.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's pretty. Dude,
Fun, right?
Yeah, when it hits there, it sounds so good.
Yeah, it pops, and I like, it's nice to work with folks that take the reins off you, and they're just like, you do what you do, and I'm like, okay, and you send it back, and you get a nice text, and then you're good to go.
Oh yeah, that's super cool. And all right, I'm gonna blow your mind with another shortcut here.
Oh, please.
So there's a really cool thing in Luna, especially for like solos, mutes, record enables, or input monitors. So like what you were just doing there, you kind of clicking solo. You can actually click and drag solo, and it will swipe up on up or over. It doesn't matter which view you're doing it in.
On either window?
Yeah. Just click and drag.
Oh yes, baby. Look at that.
Right? It is awesome. It makes for a super fast workflow when you're just trying to do a bunch of settings and kind of swipe it across like that. Yeah.
That is awesome. Awesome. So I think what I did when I was kind of working on this track, tuning has been crazy here with humidity.
It fluctuates throughout the day now, doesn't it?
It really does. This is a really fun guitar. This is a guitar I got from the Vintage Guitar Shop, LA Vintage. Burbank there, LA Vintage. It's called a Ronin. It is made of fallen redwood trees.
Mm-hmm.
Super
so
light.
Old wood.
Yeah, so it's old wood. And they make these really cool gold foil pickup singles and humbuckers. And
cool.
they sound really good, whether I'm in tune or not. So if I were to, I think what I did for this was I put on some front end compression, and I just did a little like volume pedal kind of stuff. You'll hear that come in the chorus. But before I do that, I forgot that I didn't put on this aux. So there is the 2-rock, very similar kind of setting. And I even have some verb going on there, which is fine. Yeah. Set to 100 watts because that amp is 100 watts.
Do you find that it helps to match the amp to the cabinet, like input level, or?
This is the input level works for, you want to know, like if you're playing a 40-watt Bassman, click the 50. If you're doing a 100-watt Marshall or a 2-rock or something that has 100 watts on tap, make sure you do that. It kind of helps, I think, with the internal processing of the signal.
Because it knows what to expect.
Yeah, exactly. That's a better way to say it. Thank you. And I did for whatever reason, I like the 414 and the 57 on that one. But what happens is you do sometimes get a little extra woof from that 414. So scooping it out afterwards is cool. I go back and forth. Sometimes I really like to feel the emotion of the low end, and the experience. But a lot of times if I'm playing like a deluxe or a Princeton and I don't need it, the bass knob is barely on. It depends on where my mood is, because you're going to roll all that shit out anyway in the mix.
Yeah, you really had to have a lot of space in the mix to roll with a lot of bass coming out of your guitar.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. So, and I always, roll off the mics in aux and that sort of stuff. But what I do is, I have a little JHS compressor here, and I'll just load up some overdrives and see what happens.
Do you do compression into your overdrive, or do you overdrive into your compression?
Compression into overdrive because I want it to grab my signal quickly.
Yeah.
And I want it to start compressing that. So it'll be this guy that's on, this little whitey tighty. Yeah. Let's try the Greer Lightspeed in this Nightshade pedal, which is very much, it's kind of like a rat and a clon or something, but it's. So it made for a cool sound.
Yeah.
And I do that line when I'm playing the chorus. I go. So you'll hear that. Let's see if we can get him fired up once the chorus comes. So let's use your trick. Shift, and then solo, Ben.
What do you want to do? You want to solo all the tracks?
I want to drag that.
Just swipe. Just click and swipe. No key needed.
Look at this.
Just like that.
Cool. So we'll go into the chorus here. We'll go pre-chorus actually.
I don't think it's a portrait of a memory of you, down to the mud tracks, the tread marks, the sole of your shoe. I won't ever understand how a beating heart feels so close to another and then pull apart. Tried to say it so many times, but fell short. Between the truth and the lies, we had a false start. Doesn't seem fair how everything just slips so. First chill of a cold breeze on an August day, watching the clouds change from white to dusty pink to gray. Where that old cabin smelled in a month of May. There's a painting of me up in a box somewhere. Made my eyes shine greener, brightened up my hair. There's a glimmer of someone that I recognize, buried in the brushstrokes and the shadows, the outline. Funny to think that you once saw me that way. What would I look like if you painted me? The feeling of forever where it all begins. Got me caught up in the what ifs and the might have been. Why does all of the good always have to end?
Yeah, and And there's a fun thing going on here too.
Dude, this is a masterclass in guitar arranging right here.
Oh man, that's so kind of you to say. In the if I can find it. Where is he now? Oh, atmospheric guitar. In the chorus, check this out. Yeah. That's some of my favorite stuff. The wallpaper's there, the other guy's moving around. And listen to what that EQ did to that John Mayer guitar right there. It really
that little point right there just
that's what I went
straight through.
Muddy, brighter.
Yep. No brainer.
Yeah, and I'm like a total I know just enough about some of this stuff to be dangerous.
Yep.
But I know if you're a guitar player and some of this stuff is intimidating to you, because I hear a lot of my guitar buddies say wow, you got that to sound really good. How did you do that? I just treat all of these things like they're effects pedals. What would you do with a guitar pedal? You would just monkey with it until you oh, that's cool. I just keep doing that. I'm just not afraid. And a long time ago, when I started kind of working with you guys on a looser basis, and I had some access to some plugs, I was like, let me just start creating guitar sounds with them.
Yeah.
And I would do that, and I would take the, any delay plug in and start playing stuff. Or this artist I produced a couple months ago, some of her guitar sounds, were just created with UA plugs because I wanted some stuff panning, and I wanted things that I could recall easily, and it was great, and it worked really, really well.
That's
I'm going to
awesome.
go turn on the rest of these EQs just because it's going to clean up the whole picture.
It was clean up that bottom end.
Yeah, exactly. And then we'll get to, so the slide solo is the same guitar, same kind of idea. And we didn't want a shreddy thing. We wanted something kind of moody. I think there's going to be some background vocals on this as well. So really now the only thing I have to mute is that. So if we're coming out of chorus 2,
Tried to say it too many times, but fell short. Between the truth and the lies, we had a false start. False start, false start, start, false start, false start,
and it got this weird harmonics and stuff when I played it, and I just left it in there. It sounded pretty cool. So I forgot to turn that compressor on. EQ's on. Yeah. Let's go back to that slide solo and see what because you want to put a little still some guitar playerisms, some Nashville-isms, in as much as you're allowed to. Not that this artist wouldn't want me to. He would totally want me to. But it's about the vibe of the song, and about creating texture. And speaking of texture,
speaking of, what is this?
This is the last thing. So if we just, what I'm going to do is, there used to be a time, if you wanted to play in Nashville, you got to have a banjo in the band. Yes, it is a 6-string banjo. It is one of the real badass Deering ones too. That's a couple grand. That I was actually playing it. Actually, I was in the band of the producer of this song playing this because he was, playing a lot of this kind of stuff that required that. Sorry, Joe, if I gave it away. But there was a time when there was a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you can take this and make it sort of a fun thing. Now, I want to solo just the 2-track up because if you listen, I don't know if the chorus or the outro will be the best place. Let me listen to this real quick. No. Let's try the first chorus. I think you hear it.
I won't ever understand
it's in a lower octave, and I was
Mhm.
like, how cool would that be to kind of steal that a little bit, and we'll just kind of tuck them in the beginning, make them like a signature lick. Let's see if we get him. Oh, we got to unsolo that guy. So here we go. Pizzicato.
With the party lights hung down from your lemon
Don't want
tree.
too much though, so
In the backyard of that yellow house in Los
we'll
Angeles.
let him tell his story.
Living in the moment came so effortlessly. Guess we never really said goodbye. To the weekends and the road trips and the beach fires. To the hockey games and the slow rides and the all-nighters. With the outcasts, we were wasted in the moonlight. Without a hint of leaving in our eyes. There's a map of our story traced on the floor of my
There.
car. The rolling papers, the drink tickets, the dive bar. I'm connecting the dots just like a constellation. That receipt from the movies that time that you bought ice skates. I remember the first night that you and I just shared a secret. And I hope that I could trust that you were gonna keep it. Stayed awake that night while you were busy sleeping. Lost in the pages of the book that you've been reading. Every item paints a portrait of a memory of you. Down to the mud tracks, the tread marks, the sole of your shoe. I won't ever understand how a beating heart could feel so close to another and then pull apart. Tried to say it so many times, but fell short. Between the truth and the lies, we had a false start. False start, false start, false start, false start.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Banjo like you never thought it would happen.
But man,
So,
that's such a cool part though, because yeah, you're right. You're already taking something that's inside the music, so you're not trying to add another thing, to the, it's already so well layered and kind of a cool arrangement and production, and now you're just adding this little thing that's helping accentuate a counter melody or a supporting melody that, what a cool part, man. Good,
no,
good
100%.
call.
And I just wanted, there was something that, there's always like, I think in a lot of songs, multiple melodies happening at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And they're usually kind of just handing off to one another, and I felt like that was one of those moments. And I was like, I had asked my buddies, there's a great band called Brothers Osborne, and Jay Joyce produces their records, and has the most amazing ear candy ever. Like sometimes they get it back and they're just like, wow, we didn't expect that from what they've told me.
Mm-hmm.
But there's moments where there's been banjo on some of the songs, and from what they've told me, it's like, try to make it not sound like a banjo. And it's cool. So they'll run it through distortion pedals and all kind of stuff. So I thought about that, and I fired up the Friedman BE100.
Yeah. Yeah. Rock and roll banjo right there.
Yeah. Let's plug in. That would probably be the best thing to do. So let me take it out of record real quick. So I just plugged it in because the pickup that's in this is fairly microphonic. It does a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are we hearing that?
I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing it through your mic, but not through the line right now. Check inside console. Did we mute that channel in there?
We might have. Yes, we did.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Now I got it.
Great. So then what I did is, and I didn't really add a lot of gain to it. I just like guitar amp plugins. I treat it like a Sans amp.
Mm-hmm.
You know how you put Sans amp on a drum, a slam drum thing or whatever. Something really crunchy, or put it on bass guitar. I just kind of went with that thought process. Just compressed it a smidge with the LA3A, and then use the 224. Some wetness.
Yeah.
I just was like, it's kind of a fun little part, and that's what we got out of it. So I'm always, rad. I try to challenge myself with experimenting before I go into the track, because that way it's not like cookie cutter car wash kind of thing. I call it the car wash, when you just, here's a track and you come out and it's done.
Same thing that you always do.
Yeah, I mean, I have, I try to block out, if somebody's going to send me one song. This is probably not what most people do in my line of work, but I try to make a day of it. Like I want to learn the track like I'm in the band or like I wrote the song, and then I want to play a bunch of shit, go for a walk, get some lunch, come back, listen to some more. Okay, that's cool, because I want this to live in the sense of like a record as opposed to a demo.
Yeah.
Now you can certainly do that in a regular straight up live recording session, but I want the parts and I want the tones to be thoughtful, and I want that positive text. Yeah, we got these tracks, are amazing.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I always want.
Surprise, surprise! Like time, attention, and detail are what get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's like it's all these little. You've done so many cool like little touches here or there, and just you've paid attention to the parts, the arrangement, the tones, the panning, the effects, like everything that you could be or should be thinking about, kind of especially you've taken on very much like a producer role in the sense of like you're really kind of selecting what's going where, why it's there, and there's not stuff there just for fun. There's stuff there because it's supporting the song, supporting the feel and the message. Yeah,
there's very few whack off moments or look at me moments. You know what I mean? Like hopefully that makes them look at you more. But we didn't have any Neve summing, or we didn't have any saturation on any of that stuff. So why don't I just fire all that up?
Click and drag. There you go. You can drag.
Click and drag. Oh, there we go. Bam. Boom. So there's, and my friends that aren't believers yet, let's just go to the chorus.
I don't paint a portrait of a memory of you, down to the mud tracks, the tread marks, the sole of your shoe. I won't ever understand how a beating heart could feel so close to another and then pull apart. Tried to say it so many times, but fell short. Between the truth and the lies, we had a false start. False start, false start, start, false start, false start. Doesn't seem fair how everything just slips away. First chill of a cold breeze on an August day, watching the clouds change from white to dusty pink to gray. Where that old cat smelled in a month of May. There's a painting of me up in a box.
What the Neve summing is doing to the 2-track mix is sick. The bass sounds so much better already.
I don't paint a portrait of a memory of you, down to the mud tracks, the tread marks, the sole of your shoe. I won't ever understand how a beating heart could feel so close to another and then pull apart. Tried to say it so many times, but fell short. Between the truth and the lies, we had a false start.
Love it.
It makes such a huge difference. And you guys, if you guys are paying attention there at home, you'll notice Corey and I were talking about the tape and the summing earlier, and I hipped him to the thing that Vance hipped me to, which is the low impedance. The fullness that you get, that's that low impedance mode. Adds so much more bottom and body to the sound. The one thing it does do also is it adds like a dB.5, almost 2 dB of gain. So it's one of those things where like when you're going between high and low, and this is UA's philosophy. Like we do it warts and all. We do exactly what the real thing would do. In the real world, when you switch between those two, you're offering less resistance to the summing bus. So of course you're going to get a little bit more gain, but that's also where that extra amount of low and high presence is coming from. And yeah, I'm obsessed with that low impedance mode, especially on the mix bus, man.
No, absolutely, man. It's really bringing a lot of life to this track. Like I said, that's just on the 2-track bounce that they sent me. And it's like the snare drum is like popping me right between the eyes. Like it's great. It's really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm having a lot of fun.
Well, that's good. Well, Corey, any questions for me? Well, you got me here on the line. Anything that you've been trying to do in Luna that
So what's the best way for me to bounce individual files?
Great question.
That would be really helpful.
Yeah. So there's a couple of ways to get to it, but say you prepared your session just like how you have it here. You love how each of the individual tracks sound, and you want to send this back to them so they can bring it into their session flat. Everything sounds exactly how it should. You're gonna go to the file menu, export.
Yep.
All tracks as files. And then, so this brings up the mix down menu. So this menu on the right, it's kind of a shared menu. So if you do just a regular bounce to disk, you'll see the same window popping up. But when you do the export all tracks, it does a few things for you specifically. You see at the top of that window where it says multiple sources selected. Click on that. So what it's doing is it is selecting all of the tracks individually. And so it's now going to bounce out a file for each one of those tracks with the effects committed to it, with any edit. Basically, what you've been hearing here is what's going to be printed into individual WAV files for you to send back. So you can press done there, and then it'll bring it back to this options. So the other couple options, for this purpose, you're sending it back to a producer who's got the master session. If you haven't done any like virtual instrument stuff, you probably don't need that include MIDI file for tempo and instruments. But of course, if you say you recorded a piano track, you would want to send them the MIDI. You have the option here to bypass effects. So if you wanted to send it to them without the Oxford EQ or without that 1176, the stuff that is in the insert slot. Now, all the record effects that you were tracking with, those have already been recorded. Those are committed. Those are a part of these regions already. But it's the insert effects that you have the ability to bypass if you wanted to. Preserve mono tracks. If since you're recording off the aux, you're recording everything in stereo like we discussed earlier.
Right.
So that option, it won't come into play here. But if you say you're recording drums and you had like, kick and snare, and you've got a lot of like mono mic configurations, you don't necessarily want to be delivering stereo files for mono sources.
Right.
This checkbox allows you to deliver a mono file for those mono sources. And then real-time mixdown, instead of doing this in an offline bounce kind, it would do it piece by piece. It would do it like all in real time, like you're listening back to the song.
Right.
And then, you'll want to come down. So for file type, currently you've got on AAC, which that's kind of like a compressed file format, similar to like an MP3. Right. You want to go wave. You can set the sample rate to whatever you like, 48. And then bit depth, I would, if you're sending back tracks for them to integrate into a mix, you'll usually want to pick 24 for that. And then you would hit mix down, and then or that save to is, we skipped over one there. Save to, that tells you where you want this to land. Right. So what folder do you want these stems to be bounced into? Then you hit the mix down button, a little pop-up comes up, and it's exporting all your tracks, ready for somebody to bring in back into their session and continue to work.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense, because I was right-clicking, that wasn't happening. So that makes a lot of sense for sure.
Well, there is, and I mean, actually, in your little right-click there is a functionality, and some people have asked about this. Like, you can actually export raw audio off of your timeline. So if you right-click there, you'll see export clip.
Oh, great.
So if you wanted to send, what's exactly there on the timeline, no effects, no printing of what we were just kind of talking about, and you just want that raw audio, this is the way to get that out of the session as well.
That's good. That clarifies a lot for people too, because if you were to just kind of go and do that, you would miss out on some of the beautiful things you did in your mix window.
Exactly. And there's cases where you want either or, and sometimes you do want to you want to take a preface. A good example right now would be like, say you want to take one of these guitar tracks out, and you wanted to reverse those whole note chords. You could export the clip level version of it, take it into the Pro Tools or Ableton, and do some manipulation to it, and then bring that file back in, and then bring it back into this track, and still get the mix processing later on. Right. So it's a good way to get out to an external editor and then come back in as well.
Killer.
Nice, dude.
And we talked about potentially adding in the marker recall, which would be huge for me, because you get used to your number pad, and then it becomes like second nature of finding chorus and pre-chorus and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, man,
I'm just just getting my feet wet as well. A long time Pro Tools user, I can do it with my eyes closed, so it's so great that everything is working this smooth. Like I'm surprised at how quickly I'm getting into, particularly not only just the workflow, but adding in all of the sonic capability with record effects and inserts and everything. And it's not, my machine is just idling. It's awesome.
Exactly.
Well, I'm never going to make full on records in this place, but you can see I got a handful of tracks going, and I'm doing a lot of stuff with video too. So I'm always, I'm using it to some sort of capacity.
Totally.
And it's going to be a useful tool for a long time.
Hell yeah. Well, awesome. Well, Corey, man, like I said, it was so cool to kind of talk, geek out on your amazing guitar rig that you got here sitting at home. But more importantly, man, like the tour through this tracks and kind of getting to discuss from the production side how you go about producing these types of guitars. I think it's gonna be really helpful for a lot of people out there who are tracking guitars.
Yeah.
And just that the mindset that you're going into, and the way that everything is building the song and giving it more life and giving it more support in just the right ways. That to me, that was the biggest thing I picked up on as we've gone through those examples. And
Nice.
really want to thank you for spending your Friday afternoon with us. And
Oh man, I've had it earmarked for a while. I've been looking forward to it.
hell yeah.
And thanks to Mitch, Joe, and Kate for providing a really cool song and great track to play to, and you guys for having me. It's been
Awesome.
a lot of fun.
And before we go, who artist name one more time so people know where to find him?
Mitch Zorn.
Mitch Zorn.
Z-O-R-N.
Nice.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, dude, Corey, thanks so much, dude. Really appreciate it. Thanks to Mitch for letting us use your song. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys back here on Monday. I believe our first session on Monday is going to be in the afternoon with the person on Corey's shirt.
Look at that. Like
Look
we
at
just
that.
did.
I swear to God, we didn't plan that, guys. Butch Walker is going to be here Monday. And we're
That's
actually,
going to be super rad.
yeah, it's gonna be so cool.
Yeah.
He's been on our aux panels before. He's a really good dude. Amazing songwriter, producer, guitar player. Like he's one of those everything kind of guys.
I know. Hate them.
I know, right? Me too. We're gonna have some fun with him Monday afternoon, getting a tour of his studio and talking about his new setup.
That's gonna be killer.
Tune in
there
on Monday. Yeah, we'll see you guys there. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see y'all next week.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.